Welcome back, everybody, to the insurance panel. It's Matthew Murray, Nick Frumpkin, and our guest or returning guest, one of the many returning guests that we have is Dusty Edwards, or Dustin Edwards, if you want to call him by his government name. How the heck are you, my friend?
Good, brother. How you doing, man?
Incredible. I know you're going to the beach pretty soon today, which is awesome. You should definitely have a work-life balance. And if you haven't watched the video from last week, you should go watch it now on work-life balance. You see that, Nick? That's very good.
No, I love
don't stop
the
this video to go watch the other one. Finish watching this one first, and then go watch the other one.
You should watch all of them because they're all good. But Nick and I just have this thing where I just try to make the worst transitions into things like what we're going to talk about today. And I haven't figured out how I'm going to transition that because I don't know what we're really going to talk about. I just know that Dusty has been asking to be on the show ever since he's been on before. And people,
I've missed you guys.
But here's the thing.
We seem to have gotten a lot of questions from the last one.
People have also requested you to be back on. So it's not you just want to be back on because you want to see your face on YouTube, on a very small YouTube channel with 1.25K subscribers and about 300 average viewers. But it's because you want to answer some questions. We're getting there. No, I'm super pumped about that. But there's a lot of questions and a lot of things have changed since our video. Yeah. You know, we're going to link that video. That video was expertly, written and what's the word? Clickbaited to say $40,000 or something like that in like 1 week on door knocking. And so everybody thinks that
it is our most viewed video at this point, isn't it?
I think so. I
think it's our most viewed video.
Right. Because, people are told go door knock, and their mentors tell them this is how you door knock, but then they go to YouTube and say like, how do I door knock? And so that video did really well because of the title. And it also is a great video. But today we were talking about it on Facebook. There's a lot of misinterpretation or people like just took the video the wrong way. So we wanted to bring Dusty back on to kind of explain a little bit more about it and also how things have changed because you were a door knocker like by trade and you still are. But, even during that time that we were talking, Dusty, was whenever I was like, Dusty, you got to get on the lead game. You got to get on the phone setting game. Yep. And you converted, right?
I did. Life is definitely, which I felt like that we made that very clear on the last one, and maybe we didn't. I feel like we need to put like the flashing lights on here with neon signs pointing at it. So I'm just going to say it up front before we get started. Like leads are king. Order leads, right? What I tried to stress off of the last one, and I thought that we did that, was for brand new agents coming in that are working on a limited income or don't have an income starting out, that for $75, you can get 1,000 names through this data list and you can blow through it. You can hone your craft off of 1,000 names. You can come into this industry not really knowing what you're doing and watch all the YouTube videos that you want, but with 1,000 names, I guarantee if you run through that list, you're going to have figured it out by that point. And you've also going to have filled up your bank account enough to where by that point, before you've ever even ran through that list, you've already started dropping direct mail leads at that point, or Facebook leads or telemarketing leads or some type of lead source. But it was not a end all be all. Now, it was easy for me. And I think that that's where a lot of that confusion came in. But the thing is, though, I'm not a brand new agent, right? Even when we did that video, it's been a year and a half, 2 years ago. About a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
At that point, I've had 17 years under my belt at that point. I've had time to hone my craft in. And working that data list when I started out, no, it wasn't easy. I had to figure out that presentation. But by the time I got over to doing final expense senior benefits, I also already had 12 years experience under my belt at that point. So I had renewals and everything coming in already that I could live off of while I was building that presentation that worked specifically with that data list. And I think a lot of people took it and just saw, $40,000 working a data list, sell final expense. And it's not. That is not my presentation, right? We didn't go into detail because we didn't want to get into the weeds of it. But that was not my presentation. I'm not inside that house and out of that house in 30, 45 minutes. I'm in that house for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, I have talked to Dusty in detail about his actual presentation, and he is basically like setting in roots when he finally gets in somebody's house. He is sitting down in their chair, telling him to go get a water and like putting on his gloves because he's about to operate on these people. You know, basically he's about to really get into it. It's not like you could just go in and people are just expecting to walk by and talk about final expense. You know, even with a lead, that's not how it works.
No.
You know, some people think when I love seeing it online, can someone sell me a lead that the people actually know it's about insurance? They all know it's about insurance.
They all know
all
it's
of
about
them,
insurance.
all of them do.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't wake up every day since they filled out that card in the mail and go,
I hope he shows up today.
Wait to get that insurance. I can't wait to get it. You know, they're not.
I would have bought $1 million of life insurance if only somebody would have knocked on my door.
Exactly.
Right? Nobody's saying that.
Yeah. So it's and so when you're door knocking with a data list, it's even tougher because they didn't fill anything out. You know, you got to be really good. You got to be really, really good. Really, really good.
It is a ton of rapport building when you're working a data list, right? Like I can't tell you the number of times because it takes so long building up that credibility in the house because it's educational, right? When I go in, it's not just hey, I'm here. I'm licensed through the state of Georgia as a senior benefit advisor. You know, help clients with their final expense and to help save money on any of their private insurance that may be paying for, right? It's a lot of kind of rapport building and because they don't know who you are. So you got to, get them comfortable with you to the point to where I can't tell you the number of times as a joke because I am there for so long. But by the time I leave, I'm their best friend. I'm that grandchild that they never had and probably never wanted, but they've kind of adopted me into the family. But, they're inviting me to stay for dinner. They'll joke around and be like, man, you've been here for so long. I feel like I need to go make up the bed in the back room so you can just stay here tonight. Right. So, but again, it's them joking. They're relaxed with me at that point. They're inviting me to stay for dinner. You can't do that in 30, 45 minutes when you're coming in trying to sell final expense. So there's a lot more that goes into my presentation of building that rapport up. Right.
And that's an entire skill set. Like that's a skill set that takes years to develop.
Absolutely.
Like that's not the type of thing that you just as a brand new agent walking in off the street should be expecting that you can do. I know you and I started in the same place, and they spent like 2 weeks of intensive training on just like how to stand while you're talking to people, how to look at people, how to hold your pen, how to you think you know how to walk and talk, walking around and talking your whole life, and it turns out you're wrong. Like there's a lot that goes into that. It's not the type of thing that you just walk in off the street, grab a data list and walk up to a random house with no training and no experience and no leadership and say, I'm just going to knock on a door, sit down in this house for 3 hours and write, $100,000 worth of business.
Yeah, it's all those little things that nobody thinks about. Like, we know that when you get to a door, brand new agent, things that they're not going to know. We know that when we get out of our car, right? We don't know if they're looking out their window or not. Blinds are up, they're cracked. So we all know as soon as you get out of your car and you look at the house, what do? Right? Because we don't know if they see us, but in their mind, they're thinking, oh, crap, he just saw me. So It makes them want to answer the door, right? New agents don't know that type of stuff. And that's stuff that a lot of managers, they may not think because the fact it comes so natural to them.
Correct. It's kind of like Michael Jordan is so advanced that it's like more of a flow for him. He forgets about the small little things like that, so he can't really teach people how he plays basketball because he spent a lot of time early on figuring those false things out. So now they just become like he doesn't even think about them, and he can't even explain it to people. He's like, I don't know, I just do the thing that I've always done, and that's the same way you are, same way Nick is and myself. But the newer agents need to know every single step of like how to get out of a car, how to wave, how to, when you knock on a door, where you're supposed to stand, where you're supposed to look when they open the door, to make it look like you're already going in, like how to position yourself, and all those things are like small little nuances, but they're huge. And for someone like Dusty, it just happens because he's been doing it for so long. He has so many repetitions. It's almost hard for him to put it on paper. I mean, Dusty, we're doing a training a couple weeks from now, like a hardcore training. And you're like, dude, I don't know what to write. Like, I just know how to get in there and do my thing. It was like hard for you to write the material.
Right.
Because there's so much that you do.
Yeah. It's very, I don't know, man. It's like, it's trying to put all of those things down. Like I think about the briefcase. That's one of the things I tell my agents. I used to leave my briefcase in the car, right? And I would only take my notepad to the door. And then once they said, oh yeah, come on in, they'd be like, oh, okay, well, let me just grab my bag real quick. I wasn't sure if you were home or not. Right. Well, I don't do that anymore. What I do now is I've got to the point where I can pretty much just keep my briefcase on my shoulder. But for a new agent, what I teach them to do is either leave it in the car, or when you get there, lay it on the ground beside the door so it's out of sight, right?
Right.
And just have just your notepad in your hand. And then once they go to let you in, grab your bag and now you're in.
See, I've been doing that for years, and an agent asked me to go, why do you leave your door? Because I'll put it like where the doorbell is, and I'll kind of lay it up against the house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And someone's like, why do you always do that? And I was like, I don't really know, man. Like, it's just something I've always done. But now you explaining it makes total sense to me. I just always done it.
It is because it teaches the client, because if they see this big bag, they think, oh crap, you got a lot of stuff that you're fixing to be throwing at me. So it makes them think that it's a suitcase mindset, right? It's your suitcase and you're coming to spend the night.
Right.
But a notepad is, I mean, how much can you really do with a notepad, right? In their mind anyway.
You're non-threatening.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Sorry, like the other thing I do is like I'll lay it up against the house, and when they say like come on in, I'll lean forward, I'll hold one door. I'm already kind of putting my hand in their door, and I'm going to pick up my bag, and I'm leaning in, I'm halfway in their house already.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't even figured out what I'm saying?
Or how about this? Like you go up to a house and it's got a screen door or a storm door and then the regular door. You open up the screen door or the storm door. Most new agents open that door, knock, 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 close the door back again, which is something I would never do. Like, I would never do that. You don't want that door between you when they come and open the door up. You want that to be nothing but air.
Yeah.
Correct.
But I don't know that I would, until we were having this conversation about the briefcase, I don't know that I would have ever even thought to tell that to somebody. Like, but it's
those small pieces that over time you just don't think about it anymore. It's second nature, right? Like, we always joke around, Murray knows about it, and you remember it from the combined days of, I'm having the conversation with you, and once I get to a point where I want you to start agreeing with me, I'm just going to start nodding my head until I get you nodding. And then I'll get to my questions that force you to say yes. And eventually your mouth says what your head is doing, right?
Right.
And I do hold on to that one because that one has always been, I do it to my wife. Right. And
it works.
She knows that I'm doing it, and she will call me out for it. Stop nodding your head. Right. But it's so fluid, natural that I'll start doing it just in general conversations. But again, that is one of those pieces that I make sure that I go over with new agents when you're getting close to that close, because it is a genius close that subconsciously starts training that client. That, again, you're not going to learn that on YouTube. You're not going to learn it from most managers. That's the psychology behind sales. And that's something I've started trying to focus more on over these last couple of years, is the psychology behind the sale, which is almost kind of the client's why, right? Our job as an insurance agent is to help the client figure out their why. They may know what it is. They may not know what it is. Why may be their husband or wife just died. But what if they don't give you their why? So most agents are going to get up and walk away from it because they don't dig hard enough for it. So once you kind of start digging into them and getting them talking and getting them agreeing, and eventually they're going to start opening up more and giving more of their whys. But a lot of agents just don't. It's the fine tuning of the sale. We can teach the sale. It's the fine tuning of the sale. That goes from 30% close rates to 70% close rates.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and things like that, and I'm completely in agreement. Like, you need to have a why. And I know frequent guest John Duggar is fond of saying, know why, no buy. You got to have that. And it's important that you get the client to articulate it.
Yes.
But they have to say it. The words have to come out of their mouth. Even if you said it first, they have to then say it back to you.
Yes.
Preach. That's really important. You can't just know what it is. But you do have to put in a little bit of work sometimes to get them to that point where they're going to say it. And there's things that you can do, and there's ways you can structure your presentation, and you can lead them down a path. But at the end of the day, you got to get to that place where they talk about why you're sitting there in front of them and why they need whatever they need.
And typically you can do that. We've talked about this before, Nick. Typically you can do that in like the first 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, it shouldn't take long. Like and again, so on the Facebook post that you made last night or this morning.
Me or Dusty?
No, Dusty. Dusty made last night or this morning. There was some conversation in that post about, Dusty spends a couple hours there, and a lot of people teach, go in, sell in 30 minutes, get out. And I will say I'm from the go in, sell in 30 minutes and get out school. I don't think there's anything wrong either way. It's just different. But you've got to know which system you're working and how the system is structured. If you are in the I'm going to be selling, 15 policies in the next 5 days model, where you've got to just see people in volume, you want to be able to get to that why in 2 minutes. If you're going to be trying to sell $100,000 a single premium and setting them up with, retirement money and doing other stuff, even establishing trust because you're dealing with large amounts of income, you maybe do actually want to build a little bit of rapport. But you've got to know the reason why you're in that system, what the system is designed to do, and how to go about doing it. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from what you're saying, Dusty, is if you're in a system and you're new, just follow the system. There are proven systems out there that work. There is no reason to be going off in the weeds and, frankly, even taking our advice or taking anybody especially not random people on Facebook's advice. You don't know who those people are. But if you're in a system, follow the system. Do what the people who know how to do this are telling you to do. That's the surest way to find success. Don't go blazing your own trail until you know what you're doing.
Sorry, I was looking down at my phone because I was catching up on the post because I didn't really get to see it today. So I was catching up on all the hoopla. It
blew up.
Yeah, it blew up real quick. Great post, Dusty. But you're right. Here's the system. I used to run a system. It was the Rob Martin system. Right. Yeah, I learned it when I was at my first shop. And the reason was because I was getting replaced because the premiums were higher than every other final expense company. So I needed a way to save a little bit of money on the front end. So it didn't seem so bad when I came in with the higher premiums. Right. So it was it worked out for me. But when I went independent, that's when I wrote the most business. Well, the system was, and I'll tell everybody this, I would go in, I would say, hello, is that cable? And they go, yeah. I'm like, is that high as cotton? Or I'd say high as giraffe nuts or something to make them laugh. And they'd laugh. And I'd go, well, let me see your bill real quick. And I'd call in the company. I would save them 30, 40, $50 on their cable bill. And then they trusted me so much. That was my rapport. And then I'd go, well, what else are you getting taken advantage of? Go grab your insurance policy. And they would go run and get their insurance policy. And the psychology behind that is I came in with the servant's mindset of I saved you money. And then they trusted me. And then I would tell them to go get me something else. Right. So by the time I'm asking them to go get me a check, they've gotten up twice to go get me things. It's simple for me to ask for those things now. That system worked, but I followed the system to a T. I didn't recreate it. It's whenever people try to recreate it is they ended up falling on its face. The system works. I'm just saying.
Most systems will work if you do them correctly. And I know one of the things we were asked for was to go into some more details, if you're willing to share them, Dusty, of how your cold calling, door knocking system, we'll call it, worked. And some of the psychology behind what you did and how you got there. I know that's one of the things that in that thread was requested, because
Right.
it is very easy to take a look at you and, 19 years of doing this and knocking on people's doors and selling $40,000 worth of premium with no leads. Like, it's easy to look at you and say, oh, that's easy. But maybe there's a little bit of value in seeing kind of the work and the building blocks that came to create that.
So my whole system of what I've done, and I'll even, as I get through this, I'll even tell you how I came up with it, because I didn't even come up with it. A client came up with it for me, right?
Nice.
So I was going in just same way as everybody else, selling final expense, right? Proven system, it works. Closing rate, depending on how smooth of a talker you are, was that typical 40%, 50% close rate, right? So, and again, that's your rapport building. It does anyway. That system works. And I remember I had this client that I went and sat down with her, and her premium was going to be $100 plus, whatever it was. And this is back when the Medicare Part B premiums, which is for seniors who, of course, for those who don't know, if they're drawing their Social Security benefits and they have their red, white, and blue card, Medicare Part A and Part B benefits, Medicare deducts out of their Social Security check a premium every month to pay for their Medicare Part B premium. And back then the premium was, I think it was like $127, I think is what it was at the time. And anyway, so I met with this client. We went through the whole presentation. She needed it. She had no insurance. She was in decent health. I think she was going to end up going standard, so her rate was going to be a little bit more expensive. And she goes, I can't do this right now. I absolutely need it. She goes, but if you can come back and see me at the beginning of the month or next month, she goes, I can do it then, because I'm qualifying to get my Medicare premiums waived out of my Social Security check. And that money that I'm saving, I can just use that to pay for my life insurance. And I remember going, And she goes, yeah. She goes, I'm filling out this form, and she points to it. And I said, what is that? So I went over there and I was looking at the form. So this lady kind of educated me a little bit on it, that her Medicare agent, which didn't fill it out for her, but gave her the application and told her, hey, if you fill this out, you can save money, call me back afterwards. So I immediately called my Department of Family Children Services here in my county. Now, I think it's, y'all call it different in certain states, but in Georgia, it's Family Department or Department of Family and Children Services, DFACS office. And so anyway, I called them up and scheduled to meet with the director of that center. And I went up there and sat there for 2 or 3 hours. And I had them go in extreme detail of Medicaid and how Medicaid works for seniors, and the 3 levels of Medicaid of QMB, SLMB, QI1, the Part D extra help. How do you file it? Is there an application, a paper application that I can actually use in my presentation and help clients file this, and use that to free up money that I can in turn use to sell them life insurance, right? That's how my whole system began. So I went in, and the presentation went from, hey, Ms. Jones, I'm Dustin Edwards. I'm licensed through the state of Georgia as a senior benefits advisor. I've always used that. So I've always never marketed myself as a life insurance agent or as a broker. So, and, some will say that, oh, that's wordplay, or some will say, oh, well, that's not being honest with them. Well, it is. Insurance companies refer to you as a field underwriter. Insurance companies refer to you as a benefits advisor, right? So I'm just calling us exactly what the insurance companies call us. So I'm licensed through the state of Georgia as a senior benefits advisor. And I'm here about the form that you filled out, which again, direct mail leads. Or if it is that data list that I was running, I'm here about the form that you received in the mail about the Medicare Extra Help and Social Security Benefits Program, which is that Medicaid form, right? Seniors love Medicare. If they can save $2 on a doctor's visit, they're all about it. If they can save money at all, they're all about it. Well, from a final expense standpoint, we're coming in there to take money, not give money. So my objective was, why can I do both? So I would lead in with that. So once we got in the house, I'll let them know. So Ms. Jones, again, to kind of tell you who I am and what my job is, my job is to see whether or not you may qualify for any extra help through the state. So we're going to see based on your income, based on your medications, based on your general overall health, if you may qualify for any extra help through the state to help eliminate those Medicare Part B premiums, and also see if you may qualify for any reduction on any of your private insurances, right? Now, with me saying just that, as a senior, it also took away any chance of rebuttals at that point because she really doesn't know what to rebuttal. There's nothing that has been opened up yet. So then I had to come out with a fact finder. And the fact finder took me probably another couple of years after that. So we're talking over a 4-year time span, right? So it took me another couple of years to really put together this fact finder. And this fact finder, I almost kind of ripped it off from the QMB application, the Medicaid application for seniors. I ripped off a good section of that and put it into a fact finder, but then I also included in all the information that we need to know about their life insurance. Because again, with Medicaid application asks, do you have life insurance? Because they want to know about the cash value in it. Because if you end up,
and they ask, is it going to be used for a burial?
correct. So if they ever question, why do you need that information, right? It's on the application right here. It's this question. So again, no rebuttal they can come up with because it's all right there. So, and now because these clients are visual, they can see me physically filling stuff out and I'm asking them questions along the way, right? Do you currently have any stocks, bonds, CDs, annuities, IRAs, money market accounts? Ms. Jones, at the end of the month, after you've paid out all of your bills, roughly how much do you have left in your checking account at the end of the month? I've got X number of dollars. Well, from a life insurance standpoint, what did that just tell me? She has a checking account. And I know she's got money in it. And I know how much money she's got in it, which means that kind of gives me some idea as far as an affordability or a budget for her. But she's also told me how much she gets on her Social Security check as well, because that was part of the conversation. So it's every stage of that conversation of that fact finder is giving me the information to find out whether or not she may qualify for Medicaid, but it's also giving me all the information that I need to see whether or not I can do something with her life insurance. Because when I get to that piece of the conversation and I've collected all of her Medicare information, I know what her Social Security benefits are, I know she has that checking account, then I transition into and I say to Ms. Jones, as far as any private insurances, are you currently paying for any long, I don't want to go straight into life insurance. I want to make it a smooth transition over, right? So I ask her, I say, as far as any private insurances, you're currently paying for any long-term care nursing home policies. I don't really care what she says. Yes, no, doesn't matter. Are you currently paying for any cancer policies? Again, yes, no, doesn't matter. Are you currently paying for any private life insurance policies? Oh yeah, I do have life insurance. Great. Who do you have that through? Well, I've got it through ABC Company. Great. We're going to give them a call real quick just to get a breakdown and see exactly what you have with them. Right now, let's say she throws up another rebuttal. What do you need to know that information for? It asks right here on your Medicaid application, do you have life insurance? And they want to know if it has cash value in it. Oh, okay. And then boom, I'm on the phone with her insurance company, right? So now I've got all the fact finding information I need. And once I have all that information about the life insurance, now I just do my normal presentation, right? So you can start breaking it down and spending it and turning it upside down. Oh, Ms. Jones, that's a universal life. That's a term life. That's a flexible premium whole life. That's whatever it is, you just do your normal presentation at that point. So, but that fact finder, it keeps me on track. It keeps my agents on track. And that's actually the training we're going to be doing here in just a couple of weeks is teaching essentially here shortly we'll be teaching over 400 agents to follow this exact same track record or tracking process, asking the same questions so everybody's on the same page, right? So it keeps everything very compact. The conversation is always the same. All the information you're collecting is always the same. So when people hear me talk about that data list, that data list of me running it, it wasn't just I ordered a data list and I immediately went out and started, boom, I just started making money off of it. I had to completely redesign a presentation for it to make it fit. Because again, with direct mail, we don't know what we're going to get back. We don't know if it's going to be 10 leads. We don't know if it's going to be 40 leads, right? I've had times I've ordered leads where I've dropped $2,000 and I got back less than 10 leads on it. So it was a horrible return, but you know, you kind of keep that nest egg filled up. But that data list was never meant to be a always work this. This is always going to be your money maker. It is for brand new agents, flashing lights again, brand new agents, to give them a way to build up a basic nest egg to where they can go out and start buying leads.
That could have been some of the biggest golden nuggets that was ever dropped on the insurance panel. If you haven't, you need to go back and watch the last 10 minutes where we just let that, Nick and I just both shut up and let him talk. If you haven't, you need to watch that again. Dusty just gave out pure gold of what took him years to build in the last 10 minutes. And even the crazy part is, even if you paid attention and rewind it and watch it again, there's still so much more that goes into that.
There's so much more to that. That is a very 500-foot
that is a
view over the
super
top.
high level overview. Yeah, it's a super high level overview. But that was some straight knowledge that you're dropping on people. But the time and the energy that it took you to do that, there's a reason that you could write $40,000 worth of insurance door knocking, is because you spent the time developing that. You know, and again,
years.
Go ahead.
Years, like, right? 4 years that you spent developing this system. Like, this is, and that's, I think, like where the neon flashing sign should be. Is like, this is not something that you should expect that this is going to be your golden goose tomorrow. You should not be expecting that you can call a lead vendor tomorrow and get a list of 1,000 names and go out and write $40,000 tomorrow, unless you've got somebody like Dusty holding your hand and giving you years worth of training and experience. Because here's the thing, Dusty had years of training before this even started. You know, when he started doing this, he was not a brand new agent when he started this 4-year process of developing this. He was already a highly trained, successful agent before he started developing this system. And I do think that's a place where everybody gets very excited. They want to get out and go blaze their own trail, you know? And you see people saying things like, they tell you not to reinvent the wheel, but who told that to the person who invented the wheel, and stuff like that, you know, like weird motivational quotes. But you do have to actually put in the time, and you have to get to the place where you know what you're doing well enough to be able to start creating new paths.
Correct. I mean, even like Justin Thomas, a friend of the show, has a course, and it teaches people how to quote unquote reinvent the wheel, a different way of marketing yourself instead of just buying leads and going running on them. Right. But even he'll tell you his course is a 6-week course. Right. To get it even started.
It's not something that you should be doing if you have no cash flow. It's not something you should be doing if you don't have experience. You know, this is next step stuff. This is not when you're brand new. When you're brand new, buy leads, listen to your upline, go do the things in the order that you're told to do them. Even the stuff that feels goofy. You know, I remember, again, talking about combined insurance, they had a joke in every single presentation, and it was a terrible joke that you had to tell, and you damn well better have told it every single time. Otherwise, the whole presentation doesn't work if you don't tell the stupid joke.
Is this the sick and tired joke?
Yes, yeah. Like, but it's necessary, right? and you feel dumb doing it, but you go out and you do the stuff, even the stuff that you feel is dumb, that you don't understand why you're doing it, because somebody else has come along and put together a system that works, and it works when you package it that way. And when you start trying to break it apart and take out bits and pieces that you don't necessarily feel comfortable with, when you take out the stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable, the stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable is there for a reason. You know, you got to get comfortable with that stuff.
Yeah, that's the things that make you uncomfortable is also, in a way, making the client feel comfortable or uncomfortable, depending on the situation, too.
But to a purpose.
To a purpose, yeah. It's to make them feel comfortable with buying insurance from somebody who just knocked on their door an hour ago that they weren't expecting you. They were watching Oprah and you walked in. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now they're giving you a check for $73 a month to go to an insurance company who you probably didn't even tell you the name of the insurance company at that point, because you've got them to trust you. You know, some dumb joke I used to tell every time. I'm like, you know, when I was adding A, D, and D on my policies, I'm like, look, this is like $1. So, you know, I know you probably don't need it, but I could walk outside this door, and if an acorn hit me on the wrong side of the head, there goes the end of Matt. So I got mine. And it was so dumb. They're like, yeah, just throw it on there. And it was like a few extra dollars of premium every time. It's such a dumb joke, but it works. So yeah, just follow the system. But Dusty's system is so, you know, that data list, the video, and you should go watch it again. And we try to clearly say it, like, this is not going to help you write $40,000 tomorrow. You know, this is for a brand new agent who has zero money to go get their first $5,000, but they're going to absolutely work their tail off doing it. And when you do get new leads, when you do have those leads because you have enough money, it's going to feel so much better, and you're going to be a better agent because of it.
It allows you to be able to hone your craft and get used to, you know, the worst thing you do is get in a house and because you just lost credibility, right? No matter what that rebuttal is that client's throwing at you, you need to be so fluid in it to where that client feels like that you have been doing this for years, even though you may have only been doing it for a month, right? This data list, $75 for 1,000 names, you're definitely going to get used to having the same conversation, the same rebuttals over and over and over again, right? We'll always run into those one-offs, but it's typically the same, probably 12 to 15 rebuttals every single time. And it's kind of like medications, right? If somebody says, I'm on a blood pressure medication, what's the very first one that always pops in your head? Lisinopril.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's lisinopril.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever. They're all, it's all the same.
You got diabetes, you got metformin, Miss Jones? Yeah, I got that big old horse pill. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you take insulin? No, I'm taking insulin.
You take glipizide also, or just metformin?
Right. You know, they're like, man, you've been doing this for a while. I know, Miss Jones. I've been doing this for a long time.
Oh my God, that right there. They love that. As soon as you can just tell me the first 3 letters, Miss Jones. Oh, it's L-I. Oh, is that lisinopril? Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I always say, I'm like, look, you probably got some high blood pressure, some cholesterol, and maybe some diabetes, right? And I'm like, look, after 50, we call that the Southern Starter Pack. Everybody over the age of 50 gets Southern Starter Pack.
I like that. That is stolen. That's going into the presentation.
I stole it from somebody else, so you can have it.
I like that.
It's so good. It works every time. I'm like, look, that's the Southern Starter Pack, baby. You're going to have some high cholesterol, probably some arthritis too if you're over 55. And they're like, oh yeah, I got all that. So it just works. You know, those things work. But Dustin, I mean, I don't know how far we're going to go into that. I mean, I think it was a good stopping point of where because there's more into that presentation, and there's more mannerisms and things that you do in a house to position yourself as the senior benefits advisor that, you know, we could talk for hours on that. I know me and you, like I said, Dustin, we're doing a training, and me and you had to like try to collapse the time frames, because me and you could just talk about these things for hours and hours and hours. And so could Nick, because we study it. We're nerds about it. We enjoy that kind of stuff. But if you're a new agent and you're just getting started, you know, this is brand new for you. You know, you were just told 6 weeks ago that you can make $200,000 a year, and all you have to do is go see the people that have requested information. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. It's not hard, but it's not that easy. You know, when you get to the house, people are going to give you rebuttals. They're not going to open the door with a checkbook and their medications on a silver platter. There's more that goes into it than that, you know, and that's when you watch these videos, when your uplines, you know, when you're watching our videos, I think Nick and I do a really great job of trying to explain that it's not a tough job, but you got to put in some time. You got to care about what you're doing and really focus in and learn about medicines and underwriting and understanding carriers and how they work and what works for best areas. But when people first get started, man, they just get sold this dream, and it's sad.
That's what I hate. That's where this industry has changed, man. The honesty behind it now of what the uplines and managers, the IMOs, and the, you know, it's changed. Like, I still have the conversation with agents where they come in of like the work and I tell them when they start out, because they ride with me and they see how easy it is for me. So they feel like, oh, okay, if I just say it just like you and I talk just like you, then therefore I'm going to be able to sell it just like you, and I'll write $15,000-$20,000 each week. And then all of a sudden they come out and they struggle and they only may write 2,000 or 3,000 that first week. And I'm like, you are going to absolutely hate life every single day for probably the first 90 days. And then somewhere around that 90-day mark, something's going to click, maybe sooner, maybe a little bit later, but something's going to click and it's just going to have gotten just a little bit easier. And then around that 6-month mark, it's all of a sudden 50, 60, 75% easier. Still running into some issues, but you're finding the closing ratios are getting better. The sales are getting higher. You're getting the appointments a lot easier. You're getting through the door a lot easier. You start picking up all these different, I talk about it, and this is, Murray appreciate this since he's the gamer as well. Well, I'm not, he's the gamer. But, you know, one of my guys, I was teaching him from a telesales standpoint, that keeping it very, very basic, right? Telesales, it's hard to, because you're not in front of them, to be able to build that rapport over the phone, right? So you have to keep it very basic to start out. Just get your small sell. Doesn't matter if it's $40 or $50, just get your small sell, right? Don't try to replace anything over the phone. Try to dig into what little bit of life insurance they may have, but ask very basic questions. And then what is this addition for, right? Dig more into the why for this new policy. But in going through it though, and this is where the kind of the gamer side of it came in, it's like playing a new video game. You know the basic functions of the triangle and the X and the square and the, I don't know what the other one is.
Circle.
So like, you know, the very basics of what those buttons do, right? But as you start honing that craft, you start getting better at that game. Well, you also know if you press the right trigger button and the XO button at the same time, you know, it does some other function, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you start getting into the fine details of it. Like, one of my things, again, psychology side of it, if I get into a client's house and they're sitting sideways, turned away from me, arms crossed, legs crossed, I'm not going to mention anything about insurance at all. Like, I'm not even going to mention why I'm there yet, outside of just my initial, here's who I am. But that rapport building will not stop until that client has uncrossed his legs, uncrossed his arms, and he's turned towards me, right? Because this is just, they're closed off.
Mm-hmm.
I need him open. I need him receptive. And the only way he's going to do that is if he faces towards me. The psychology behind it. Again, you can't teach that to a brand new agent, not out right out the gate. So you keep it very basic. Will he close that sale? Maybe, maybe not. Will that client loosen up sometime during that conversation? Maybe, maybe not. I would have a better chance with it because I'm just going to keep talking about nothing until he does finally relax. And they always will. If you find enough relation with them, they will get comfortable because everybody loves talking about themselves. So you just keep them talking until they find something that really excites them, and they will. They'll lean forward. They'll get right up in your face to talk about whatever it is. Grandkids, fishing, you know, Viagra, whatever it is that they want to talk about. They're going to find something that excites them.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, they I remember, and again, that's not the particular system that I work with, but it's the same basic underlying philosophy of, you know, you create the environment, right? You create the environment that's conducive to making a sale, and you need to have that environment. And some of that has to be, you know, things are positioned in a way that works. You know, TV's got to get turned off. TV doesn't get muted. TV gets turned off. You know, it's different. It is. You have to have, if there is a table to sit at, and there's not always a table to sit at, but if there's a table to sit at, you're better sitting at a table than sitting in their living room. People make decisions at the kitchen table. They don't make decisions sitting on their couch staring at their TV. You know, and that's the stuff. It's big. But it's little things, like you said. I keep coming back to, every time I talk to you, I think about combined stuff, but I keep coming back to like little hinges swing big doors, which is a W. Clement Stone thing. But it's all those little tiny little things that they overwhelm a new agent. So you don't tell the new agent, you just say, hey, new agent, here's a script, do this. And then once you get comfortable with do this, then you can start talking about why you're doing it.
Correct.
But
yeah, it's kind of like the Mr. Miyagi thing, like take the jacket off, put the jacket on kind of thing, throw it down, pick it up, you know, same thing. I mean, yeah. Do y'all still, when y'all go in the house, do you still turn off the TVs for them? I take the remote. I go, hey, can I sit real quick? Like, you ain't gonna believe it. Like, we got to talk to this real quick. And they're like, huh? And I'm just crazy like that. I create the environment the best I can, because if not, they're going to pay attention to the TV instead of paying attention to you. Yeah. You know, when I call the carrier and I've got my Padfolio or my notepad out, I'm like, hey, you got to pay attention to this because this is serious. You know, you ain't gonna believe this. And they'll go, huh? Because they, you know, I'll even like snap, like, hey, you got to pay attention to this. This is serious. And I want them to focus on what I'm doing, because I'm setting it up to win at the end of that presentation. If they're not focused on you, chances are you lose that sale.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I call it the theatrics. I think sales is a lot of there's a lot of theatrics with it, right? You know, life insurance, you get on the phone with their insurance company. And again, those things that, do you train that up front? How do you explain that? How do you teach that? But, you know, you can, if I'm finding out about your insurance, which I have it on speakerphone because I want them to hear everything their insurance company say, you can't hide anything. Like, they have to hear it for themselves.
Absolutely.
Right?
I want them to hear it.
Right. So even if it's the best thing, right, they have a great policy, because all you're trying to do is create doubt. Clearly, don't replace something if you're fixing to put them in a worse situation. Like, that should go without saying.
Man, it should.
Yeah, it should. But it's also too, because that client is watching you, hopefully is watching you as well. It's as simple as going, yeah, she has a whole life policy that she took out 15 years ago. It cost her $75 a month. And, you know, she's got a $2,000 loan on it, right? Which we know is not necessarily bad, but it is. But it's also a matter of quickly just going.
Yeah, exactly, bro. I am acting in that house.
Right.
Right. You're not having a conversation with the sales rep with the customer service rep on the other end of the phone. That's not the point of like, you call an insurance carrier. You're not just data gathering. You're not convincing that person on the other end of the phone about anything. You're having a conversation with your prospect. Still, you're just having that conversation
through. Yeah.
Correct.
You know?
Correct. And that's where, again, that is that honing the skill, right? The heavy breaths, the big sighs, the rolling of the eyes, the cringing face, right?
I do.
Dropping like your pen on your notepad and just kind of leaning back in your chair, like, right? Not even saying anything, but it creates enough doubt in that client's head to where when you hang up, they go, what happened? What's going on? What's wrong? Oh my God, I've done lost my insurance, right? Like, it's creating that doubt, which made that conversation you're fixing to have much, much easier to be able to go over what you're fixing to go over.
And a lot of times you can do things like you can use the same, leading question techniques and asking questions that have to be answered yes, with the customer service rep, and be things like, so what you're saying is that in 3 years' time, Miss Jones isn't going to have life insurance anymore. Isn't that right? And they'll go, well, yeah, I guess that is sort of what I'm saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Miss Jones, you just heard what this person from your insurance company said. Your life insurance is fixing to expire in 3 years.
That is my final question. I go, look, so what you're telling me, Mr. Insurance Company Man, is that the only way for him to get out of this really horrible situation is to qualify for a new insurance policy if it's level coverage. And if they do, they can, they can replace it with the new one, and this one, they don't have to worry about the loan anymore and all that stuff. And they'll go, yeah, that's what they should do. No further questions, Your Honor. And they laugh. They're like, that sounds good. And like, their insurance company that they've been paying for 15 years just told them it was a good idea for that person to qualify for another. And then I go to this and go, what do you think we should do? And they go, I got to qualify for a new policy. Right?
I love the Murrayisms.
And then I go, look, I'm assuming everything is, correct, except maybe some height and weight on the back of this policy. So you still have the same bank account and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, we'll use this. We'll fill in the blanks from what I don't know, because I know things have changed from the last 15 years. And that's how you sell a policy.
That's it.
It's a done deal. But
so
what do we know?
I've always wanted to ask this question. Murray, I know how you market yourself. Like I know your presentation, all 15 of your different presentations, right? So Murray's like bipolar when it comes to selling insurance. And it's funny because the story he was telling about his the way he used to sell with the cable bill and stuff, he's actually doing that right now. He actually wanted to test it out to see how it would perform, and he's been bragging me on the numbers with it that he's been doing with it.
$3 lead.
Right? So, and has, $3 lead, and he sold like $5,000, $4,000, $5,000 at this point, something like that. So, but Nick, with you, right? Like I know I market myself. I say it all the time. I market myself as a senior benefits advisor. What do you market yourself as?
I do the same thing. I do the senior benefits advisor as well. And my whole presentation is set up so that it is quick, but that it's also professional and knowledgeable. And I lean on the fact that I can't help it. When I talk, I sound like I'm a smart person. I have since I was like 14 years old. Thanks, Matt.
Pete Fournier.
Yeah, no, but like so I lean on I'm the expert, you're not. I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for years. And this is the way things are. This is your situation. This is your why. And this is how you accomplish that. I don't really think there's anything else to talk about, is there? Nope. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, I think if I'm correct, Nick, like you think like when someone's thinking about you, they're thinking of like the guy that went from the office that had like the ID badge that they like scan in to get into the door, and you're the caseworker and you're just opening up your book and you're going, all right, here's the facts, here's this, okay, this is what you're going to do. Right?
I want people to think of me in the same way they would think of a social worker
or a DHEC. I just think of a DHEC guy.
Like yeah,
like a DHEC guy.
I'm just the guy coming around. You sent in the lead card. I'm here to get you your stuff. I don't care. You've been talking to insurance agents. Well, that's crazy. This is we'll go over stuff and figure out how to make sure everything is all set up for you.
Right.
I don't want them thinking that, clearly, our job is to sell insurance, right?
Sure.
I sell off of education. Absolutely. I want that client to know more about their policy than almost the next insurance agent that walks through their house, to the point to where I want that client to be able to call that agent out on his BS when he walks in there and tries to tell her something different. And a lot of my clients I feel like that when I walk out, they have that ability somewhat to be able to do that. But that's what I like. I think where a lot of agents start out is the old feel, felt, found mentality. right? Like, does it work? Yeah. Have they heard it? So these seniors heard it so many times that
Oh
they
my
could
God.
almost quote it right back to you? Yes. So
Absolutely.
they know that it's fake. They've seen it too many times. And I think that's the reason why it's such a low persistency and a low close rate, is because they're still trying to use an old system that is dated. It can still work, but it's dated, right?
Yeah.
It's rubbed raw at this point.
And especially amongst new agents, especially in final expense, there is a lack of respect for who that prospect is. You're dealing
Correct.
with people who are lower income and older. And for whatever reason, instead of saying, hey, this person has managed to make it to 73 years old, making $800 a month, and is living, and is like feeding their family and their cats and whatever, they, this person's clearly got something going on. They've got a level of intelligence and street smarts that should not be underestimated. They go in there and think, crazy old Betty with her 20 cats, only has $800 a month, clearly can't fix stupid, and she doesn't want to buy from you because she knows you're full of crap.
Yeah.
She can see it coming. She can see it when you get out of your car, because she is watching when you get out of your car, and she knows when you get out of your. She knows when you're getting out of your car. Oh, this is some guy full of BS, and going to try and come in here and sling a policy, and maybe I'm feeling in a mood to kind of jerk them around a little bit today because I think it's funny, or maybe I'm just going to not even open my door when they knock on the door. But they know, our people should be treated like they are a force to be reckoned with. They are not dumb. They are extremely street smart for the most part. And I would say 9 times out of 10, if you're walking out of there and you're thinking can't fix stupid, it's because you've screwed up.
And you're stupid.
Yeah. It's you're the one that screwed up.
Yeah. I mean, I had a client tell me the other day after I walked out of her house, she goes, hey man, don't ever change. I said, what do you mean? She goes, you're just a real one. I could just tell just by how you sit in the house, because I lean back in the couch, like this. I'm just hanging out with the family. She's like, I can just tell that, you're just trying to help. And I think like
you're genuine.
I'm genuine. Yeah. So going back to like how Nick tries to present himself as like the guy in the office and all that stuff that's coming out. Like I'm also the same guy. I'm just the goofiest guy in the office. Is kind of how I want my mannerisms to be.
That's who you are.
That's who I am as a person.
Yeah, right.
And it comes off in a house, and they love it. I mean, they love it. I love them. They're my favorite people in the world. I could never see myself doing anything other than working with seniors about final expense. Like that's what I love to do. And you should too if you're watching this. Hopefully, if you're watching this, it's because you want to sell final expense or a little bit of Medicare, maybe. Who knows? Or maybe you want to sell a single premium. Who knows? Dusty, you know anybody that does single premiums?
I know a few people. So no, listen, going back, even with that presentation while I was talking about of what I do, same thing. It's uncovering all of that to be agents leave so much money on the table, so much money, right? I can't tell you the number of single premium sales that I have made to where I originally started out to sell them life insurance, a final expense policy. And at some point in time during the conversation, the client will say, we've all heard it, I don't need that. I can pay for my own funeral expenses. And then the agent will continue to try to sell them a life insurance policy. Oh, well, this is going to help pay for your funeral expenses, so that way you can use that money for something else. And no, stop. Because the second that client tells me that, if they did not already admit to me that they have this money stacked up, so this is going to be the second go around to where now they're finally admitting it. So we're going to change conversation. I'll be like, wait a minute, pause. You've already got money to pay for your funeral expenses then. You've already got money saved up. Yeah. Oh, then you absolutely right. You do not need a final expense policy. That would be just a waste of your money. And of course the client goes, huh? Because it puts them back, because they're like, wait a minute, isn't that kind of your job? You're supposed to sell me? No, I'm not here to sell you anything. I don't work for any of these insurance companies. I don't care whether you buy this or not. My job is simply to see whether or not I can help you at all. If I can, great. If I see where I can't, I'm going to tell you, you need to stay where you're at. You don't need to change anything. So let's change our conversation here just a minute. You've got this money saved up. You ain't got to tell me exactly what it is. But, and of course, if they're married, then you go into the conversation of you and Miss Jones got in a car accident, you know, headed off to church one Sunday morning. You know, is there enough money in there to cover both of you? Right. So you kind of keep walking it up to try to get to a level of it. But then that kind of goes back into another part of my presentation of talking about the Medicare spend down. Right. So I'm not going to go into the weeds of that and go into detail of it, but going back into the Medicare spend down. So now they're more than happy to tell me what that amount of money is, because they don't want to risk losing that money. So they're more than happy to go, heck yeah, protect it. Like, I'm not going to give this money up. So they're more than happy to start writing out checks at that point. But agents have to dig. There's so much money that's left on the table. I have replaced a ton of policies, of final expense policies, and turned around and wrote a single premium on top of it in that house. And if you can get a single premium in a house, oh, you can guarantee you are never being replaced, ever.
Yeah. Nobody's going to touch that.
Never.
They can't ethically, I think.
But here's something else that you just said that I don't want to get brushed over, which is, you know, the best way to respond to any objection that you are given is to wholeheartedly agree with the person.
Absolutely.
Every time. That is always the best response is, well, that's exactly right. Every time. That's exactly what these plans are designed to do. You brought that up. That's exactly right. Because they're expecting, and again, this comes back to, they're smart, right? Mm-hmm. They've done this before. This is not their first rodeo. You are not the first insurance agent they've talked to. Guarantee it. They throw out the objection and they expect the fight. And then when you don't fight them on it, they don't know what to do with that. And that puts you back in the position of then being able to grab them and lead them back down the path that you want to be going on. You know? And it's the best way to respond every time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that about wraps it up, boys. That's like I said, I know we could probably talk forever about this. It's like we're just three nerds talking about final expense. But Dusty, thank you so much for coming back on, sharing, Absolutely. You know, some of the biggest nuggets that have been dropped on this show. There's one time where Nick talked about his phone script to set appointments. And if you haven't, you got to go watch all the other videos to go find it, because it's absolute gold. You know,
and we're not going to tell you where it is.
We're not going to tell you where it is, but you got to go watch it. But dude, I was even like, oh, that's really, really good. You know, it's that simple. And I was like, dang, someone's going to miss that. You know, you should go watch that. You should go watch all our videos, because they're freaking fire. But Dusty, you just dropped some serious knowledge on the channel, and so we appreciate you taking the time, Absolutely. Teaching people just the super high level overview of how you got to where you are today. And obviously, you know, people can go look you up on Facebook, Dusty Edwards. You know, who knows what your email is nowadays? I try to send you an email and you piss me off with your emails, Dusty. It's got the longest email in the world. But I'm sure they can find you easily on Facebook. If you have an email, we'll put it down in the description. They can reach out to you and have some questions. And always, guys, if you have questions for Nick and I, you know, one, put them down in the comments. We respond to those. Absolutely. And two, if you have like a more of a private question, reach out to us at theinsurancepanel@gmail.com. Absolutely. Because we'll answer those.
And we should do another question and answer episode coming up here pretty soon, because it's been a little while since we've done one of those. So if you have questions that you would like answered on a question and answer episode, send those in, and we'll go through 4 or 5 of the best questions that we get.
Yeah, perfect. Dusty, thanks again, my friend.
Yes, sir. I'm fixing to get on the road to go meet the family. They're already at the beach, so I told her I'd be leaving here at 2:30. So I think
we got to hurry up
down there for spring break. They've been down there all week, so I told her, I said, well, I've got to work. I said, but I'll cut out early on Friday. So I'm gonna head down there to meet them.
Good. Nick, as always, my friend, thanks for being on the show. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again.